Hi Tea Society, welcome back to the Antisocial Planet. Today we are checking out 17's Spill the Field album, the rest that I haven't checked out so far. So we have one group song, which apparently also has Junghan, and yes, I am going through withdrawals. I'm having a moment, okay? And then we have the unit songs, so that'll always be fun. That always turns out well for me. But I'm excited to get to the rest of this album. New 17 music is always really fun, so excited to see what we got. I'm still like reeling from the song I already checked out from this album, Eyes on You. My brain is still trying to like wrap around everything that was going on in that music video. Anyway, album time. The fact that it's all 13 of them is getting to me like a little bit. And I understand why it makes sense for the song to have 1 to 13 be the name of the song. It would be a little bit disheartening if there was not all 13 of them. But I think I'm starting to feel the fact that I haven't seen all of them together in a minute. And it's just making my carrot heart very happy to see like Junghan and Wonwoo as part of the lineup. Anyway, this could be sentimental and make me cry. It could be upbeat. It could be all of the above. I've just accepted that my emotions are but a playground for 17 to play with. So who knows where we'll end up. Ooh. I'm having some fun synthy sounds this album. Oh. Oh. Wait, okay, first off, I love that we're getting some like synthy sounds. This one's a little bit more, I don't know, subdued, which kind of like fits with this more like sentimental side of it. I love that we're getting like a little bit of a breathy delivery into the lyrics. What was the woozy lyric? Like, when I first met you from May, cutie. I'm fine. I'm not too emotionally attached. It's fine. And then like the 10,000 hours of, obviously it's like, how do you get good at something, or like how do you understand someone? 10,000 hours kind of thrown out. And I like that of being like, oh, I know that I've spent that much time with you. Like I know you well enough that I'm an expert, right, on being part of this group. And like all 13 parts of my heart, I can't. They're being so cute. It's fine. I'm fine. I didn't go into this being like, oh, I'm realizing how much I'm missing seeing all of them together. And now they're like, you know what would really help with that? A really cute song about how much time we spent together and how much we care about each other. That'll really help with that emotional stability. A little flip up too. Oh. Hang on, I'm not tearing up about a group of men that don't not exist. It's fine. Look, I really like that we had the softer sound going into what I'm assuming is the chorus, right? And I like that a lot of the song is like softly mixing together, right? Part of this is about them being like a team. So I feel like having all of their vocals and their parts really blend and overlap with each other, right? We're getting some parts where the previous line hasn't finished before the next one starts, or we're having this like almost call and response between different vocalists, right? I really like that because it's giving this like collective feeling and they're all blending in with each other, which is like the point, is like from going from like being this one singular person into this team of 17, right? So I love the way that this all kind of like blends really well together, and having those like really soft vocals with the layers to it, right? When we got the chorus coming in, I think really fits with that. And then what got me was the "You Made My Dawn," and I was like, call back, and I'm just like, I'm gonna need several moments to recover from the fact that you're like, not only am I already giving you a sweet sentimental song, but I'm gonna reference to a previous super sweet emotional song and just twist the knife, I guess, in my heart. What's that about? Why do you gotta do that to me? I'm already barely keeping it all together. Y'all are so cute. Anyway, I'm fine. You know, so many like layers of vocals. Oh, I love the melody of that, of this little flip up, right? Like the 10,000 hours, right? Like the flip up for that, I think is so fun because it's, again, it's this lift of being like, not only does it have this fun lift in comparison to some of the like more subdued or like controlled vocals that are in other parts of the song, but it's because of you, there's this lift to the melody, right? There's this lift to what they're talking about. And I think that's so symbolic. Also, I need y'all to stop putting in references to other things. All right, I know your songs, I remember. Don't come at me, okay? I really like this line too of my heart keeps like leaking out, right? This idea of I can't like contain some of that like sincerity or like some of the things that I'm feeling when I'm around you, because it's like it forces its way out of me because I can't hide any of it. It's going back to them talking about like how well they know each other. They've spent so much time with each other that if anyone is going to be an expert on any of the other members, it's going to be the other members. So it's like I couldn't hide anything if I wanted to. Like my heart is on my sleeve regardless of how I might be trying to cover up what I'm going through or whatever is happening. I couldn't do it around this specific group of people because they just know me too well. It's so cute, and it's such a pretty like vocal melodies from them too. Like they're not doing anything like super showy. It just has this very like soft, sincere feeling to it, and it's getting to me, especially like all the different layers of vocals, right? Like it very much feels again like this collective between all of their voices. They're all just blending together. Like the inflection on that from Thank You too. Oh. Wait, I don't want to interrupt you, June, but I'm being reminded of how long it's been that I'm just like, I miss Junghan a lot. So I'm recovering from that. I won't be afraid of the future with you is such a cute line of whatever the future has, even though there's probably going to be struggles, there's probably going to be things that don't turn out the way that I thought they were or they would, or it's not like everything's going to be perfect. I know that I can face it because I have that support with me. Right? And then this, I'll call you before I go to sleep. Like this idea of you're the first person you think of, the last person you think of, lend my shoulder when things get tough. Again, I don't expect the future to all be like sunshine and perfect and have everything fall into place. There's going to be tough times. There's going to be things that like don't turn out the way that we wanted them to. But I know that you're going to be there to support me, so I'm not afraid of it, and I'm going to be there to support you. And they're so cute. I can feel all of the emotions like building up inside of me, and I'm like, I have to at least be somewhat coherent because I'm making a video, but y'all are real sweet, and I don't appreciate it, especially getting the line of you can lean on my shoulder from Dino of all of the members. I'm fine, I'm stable, totally okay. Wait, you put too many sweet lyrics back to back. What do you mean it's, wait, without you, there's no meaning? I'm fine. Y'all are really cute, but I need you to stop. I'm fine. I just needed a second before I got too much of my feelings because then it was like 13 promises. I'm like, hang on. Y'all are just, you're putting too many sweet lines back to back and I need a breather. from S Scoops too. Aww. And the fact that it ends with "you always make my heart beat," and it just lets the song end. Like there's a bit of reverb on that, but it's, I don't know, it like puts almost this punctuation on it of that's it. But I was thinking like the 13 promises I'll always keep, and we get it from S Scoops, like leader saying that. Same thing as like talking about like Dino being like the youngest and him talking about whenever something gets tough, like you can lean on me. Talking about from like leader to youngest, they're all collectively like looking out for each other. And like even just the like without you there's no meaning, especially from someone like, again, like Woozy talking about that, of someone who is very much like the lyricist for a lot of the different stuff in their music and like production stuff, but he's there for a lot of the like sound of 17, right? Like he's there to represent a lot of the voices of the group and to put that into something that is going to be what their music is. And I think that him talking about like without having that at the core of what he's doing, he doesn't have meaning. For someone whose life is so much tangled up with creating music and making music, being a lyricist and a producer, to say none of that really means anything if I'm not speaking on behalf or being part of this group, right? It's because I'm trying to figure out how to best represent those voices that give meaning to what I'm doing. They're too cute, they're too sweet, and I know for a fact that y'all are going to be super sweet in this one, and then I'm going to check out the unit songs and y'all are going to come for me. I don't trust it, okay? Vocal line might be sweet. They tend to have sweet upbeat songs sometimes, but I don't trust hip-hop or performance, especially after the last few times. No, okay? So like, unacceptable for y'all to make me cry going into all of that, and then y'all are just gonna choose violence, and I don't appreciate that, especially since you already were like referencing to other previous things that you wrote. And I'm like, no, I know those references, I know what that's about. I do like it from like a creative standpoint though, because it is, again, being like very aware of the career that they've had and referencing back to things to pull that forward into this moment of saying, we've done all these things, we spent all this time together, and it has all come to this moment in which we're not like one, we're not individuals, like we're so influenced and shaped and colored by the fact that we've been 13 for so long, right? That you cannot have one of us without the rest. I understand, it's very sweet. I can't be this attached. I can't be this attached to a group of people who don't know that I exist. I'm fine. I just might need to take a second and go for the walk or something to collect myself. Pay no attention to the continuity. I don't. All right, Candy. I'm a little bit nervous about the fact that we're starting off the unit songs with vocal team, because usually, one, they get me in my emotions, and two, they usually ground me at the end of the album, right? I go through a whole crisis because performance team and hip hop team, and then vocal team bring me back to earth. I'm nervous that we're starting with them. Who's gonna rescue me? But anyway, Candy sounds possibly fun, right? I'm nervous. Oh no!
우리 사탕 같은 사랑해요. 자그만 말 하나 해도 기분이 좋아질 수 있게요. 사랑 같은 건 아마 원래 쓰디 쓴 걸까요? 나는 싫어요. 어쩌죠? 어른이 되는 것만큼 사랑 더 힘든걸요. 그러나 그치만 그래도
God, I wasn't okay. This isn't just like a slow song. This is like a slow song, right? Because I feel like there are like sentimental, like ballad things, definitely from vocal team, right? That we get some of those sentimental, slower songs. But this is like a proper slow song. Is it like a cello that's doing like some of the bass in it? The idea of to have a love like Candy, where it's like something like sweet and usually bright, and there's something almost like this childish kind of wonder or naivety that you can have with it, right? I think that's such a beautiful image of saying I want something that has some of that kind of childish daydream to it or wonder, or, and again, almost like this feeling of wanting something that's like through rose tinted glasses, right? But in a positive way in this case, where it's, I want something that kind of leans into the dream of what love is, the concept of love, as opposed to the complexities that come along with it, right? I want something that just feels like easy and magical and is such a treat and a wonderful thing, right? And I think that is what we all strive for. Again, like the concept of being able to love someone or something is that it's going to be this wonderful moment that is all full of like good feelings and it is always going to brighten your day. And of course, that's mixed into all of that. But there's so many other things that come along with having love for someone or something, especially as you're like an adult. It doesn't have the kind of almost like purity that it does when you're a kid, where you're like, of course I like care about this person, or of course I care about this, like this toy or this game, or all of these things you associate with love when you're younger. There's such a purity to it. And even the stories that you hear about love as a kid have a certain purity to them. And then you're a grown up and they talked about like the difficult, like it's even more difficult than like becoming an adult, but like it's because it's like losing that perfect version of it, right? Again, like the concept of love versus what love actually is. So I love that idea of, I want something that's just like a sweet and a treat and doesn't have all like the ramifications even of eating a lot of sweets, right? Make you sick, and there could be other things that come along with it, but like I want something that kind of fits into that wonder and just beautiful from them. I love that they're letting so much of these vocals breathe. Again, like I said, a slow song, like a proper slow song. This falsetto from Junghan, gorgeous.
그러나 그치만 그래도 우리 사탕 같은 사랑해요.
Beautiful melody.
그만 말 하나 해도 기분이 좋아질 수 있게요. 우리 사탕 같은 사랑하며 사르르 녹아질래요. 어때요? 그대 맘을 다 가지고 싶다면 어린 맘인가요?
Oh, beautiful. And I love this little flip up at the end, the like da 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 da, right? This little like flip, like that little up note in the melody, I think fits so beautifully with this because it's still wanting, like it's some of that sentimentality, that nostalgia, right? Even at the end, they're talking about like a childish desire. Like I was saying, like you want something that kind of fits into that childish dream where it's like, it's simple and there's something pure about it. There's something dreamy about it, right? So having this little like skip in the melody, I think is like that optimism coming through, despite the fact that you understand the realities of relationships are hard, right? Whether that's a romantic relationship, a platonic relationship, even just a relationship that you have with a career that you may love or a hobby that you may love, right? All of those things have complexities when you get older, which is very infuriating. I say as somebody who continues to be upset that I'm in charge of my life now. But having the optimism of, I still want to be able to say these little things, right? These little pieces of like candy within this relationship, being able to say the right things that just make you feel better, right? That are this little like hit of sweetness amongst all the other things that are going on. And even the line of everything melting away, I wasn't even thinking of that, of the kind of savoring of a candy, right? Like a hard candy, the way that it like melts, that kind of leans into this slowdown of the whole song, right? I don't want something that feels very chaotic or almost like impulsive, emotional driven, right? I think that we have a lot of love songs, regardless of whether or not it's romantic or otherwise, that lean into the kind of impulsive love at first sight or that kind of emotional reaction that you have with someone. And then this is, I want something that is like slower and savoring it and getting to sit in it and not letting all of those other complexities get in the way, which is just, it's really sweet. I love it. And I love how much breathing room they're giving the vocals, of just letting them kind of, again, these slow down melodies, these little moments of adding interest into it. Gorgeous. Even like the drums are slowed. With that like hi-hat. Oh, love a little jazzy influence. Wait, I feel like we're building it to vocals again, but I love that there's a little musical interlude in that, right? Like, again, slowing everything down, savoring in the moment and the emotions of it. I think even leaning into some of the jazz influence really lends to kind of that romanticism of the concept of love, right? Of kind of an old-fashioned simplified version, right? You look at like older love songs and there's something very like simple, but like I said, like romanticized, which seems strange in the setting to be talking about like romanticization and romance. But there's this kind of the way that love songs used to be written, especially in jazz, was very emotion driven of I'm going to not worry about any of the complexities that come along with those relationships, in contrast to more modern love songs where, yeah, you could have some of the more simplistic ones. Love songs in the modern era of music, that could mean so many different things, right? That could be like falling in love, fighting for love, being in love, falling out of love, struggling in love. Like there are so many different versions of love songs now, whereas a lot of kind of jazz standards were about the dreamy feeling of falling in love with someone, almost like the yearning of being in love with someone. So I think having something that is jazz influenced in this not only slows everything down, which very much fits with the overall tone of the song, but is again leaning into that old-fashioned idea of what love is and the stories we tell about love in comparison to the reality of what it's actually like to be in a relationship. Oh, his voice is so good on this. So pretty though. I love Boo's voice on this. He has such a like rich tone. Ugh. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. And I love, again, some of the tones that we were getting from them. They all sound incredible like they usually do, but there's so much room to show off their voices in this, the gorgeous different tones of them, and having almost this little walk pattern in the keys, I feel like fits so well with that too. Again, like this very skipping feeling to it, right? Not just that little up note in the melodies, but also having the piano keys be kind of this walking pattern. It has that kind of daydream, meandering, almost like carefree feeling, right? It makes me think of when you're a kid and you don't really have plans, you don't have schedules, you don't have somewhere you need to be, so you can just meander around and you don't have a specific place you need to be, but you're just following the thing that makes you happy. And I think that fits into what they're trying to capture with this song of how do I bring some of that simplicity into what this relationship is, again, whether it's romantic or it's more like metaphorical, right? How do I bring some of that into what this is instead of getting caught up in the complexities of everything, right? Of all the different nuances that come along with any kind of relationship. Can I just simplify this down to the core of, I want to be able to say little things that make you happy, right? I want to be able to have those moments of savoring the sweetness of those moments and not have to deal with all of the other kind of chaos and bitterness that can come along. Escape into it, right? There's a reason that candies are like a treat. It's not something that you have all the time. It's I want this love to be the thing that I kind of have refuge in when all of the other things in my life are chaotic or other things are going on. I want to be able to like find that joy in what this love is, separate from that. Gorgeous song. Like I love anything that is vaguely jazz influenced, but I think it's just gorgeous way of showcasing their voices. This is where I start to get nervous. Rain. Now, I find it interesting because this is Rain. Hip Hop Teams is Water. So did nobody call up vocal team and tell them about the theme? Because I feel like there was a theme. This worries me so much because performance team is always, you know what they're like. I can feel myself already being defensive. But okay, Rain, let's do this. Right, y'all start with that bass already. the bass. I know, because performance scene, right, they always got a good groove and like percussion to their songs, but it gets me every single time. Interesting, like in comparison to lyrics, right? Like upbeat groove to the song, and then we're talking about like Frozen Heart, like being alone with the signs and like the curtains drawn. So it seems like maybe we're dealing with stuff like Rain. Rain usually symbolically is about dealing with like sadness, right? In a lot of different kinds of media, it's usually there as a marker of emotional turmoil that's happening, but it's also like cleansing. Sometimes to deal with your emotions, you gotta cry it out, right? I totally advocate for that. I say as someone who is also weird about crying. It's like a two-sided thing of one, being in a position in which you need to cry to make yourself feel better, but two, you also feel better after you let it out. So maybe it's some of that, of needing to be in your own space to let yourself have the feelings. I don't know. Guitar riff that just happened? Love it. Hey. Whoa, that synth, the little, it's so good. Love the falsetto that we were getting there. Also, the fact that they say "I don't want to cry" in English hurts my soul a little bit, because the reference was right there. It's like one of the Korean phrases I know because I listen to that song so much. But I think it's interesting, again, like I was saying, of being maybe on that edge of needing to let your feelings out, letting the emotions out, letting you process that, and being like, I don't want to cry, because usually we see that as like a negative or a breaking down, or even can you have space for that, especially for someone like them where they are performing or on camera or doing a bunch of schedules or even just being around the group. There's a lot of people around, right? So it could feel like you can't escape from that and process through what you're feeling. So that could also be part of it, of like, it's not just the negative connotations that we usually associate with crying, right? Of it being something that is giving in to the emotion in a negative way, almost like giving up against, fighting against the emotions that you're feeling, the emotions that are building up, but also wanting to have some of the like privacy to process through what you're feeling. It's very vulnerable to be crying, right? So I think that's really interesting. And again, with this, all this groove to cover it up, even Dino's line of turning off the music, of wanting to sit in that silence. And for people who are performers, for people who are, a lot of their life is surrounding around music, wanting to sit in silence, I think is very symbolic of needing a step away from everything that's going on in order to deal with what's going on internally. Yeah, when music doesn't make you happy and you just sit in silence. Ooh, it bops though. Whoa, I love how retro this feels, like from the synths to that like falsetto throughout the chorus, right? That just feels very much within that kind of maybe late 70s, early 80s, kind of like synthy pop, like groove sound. And I love the pass off between a bunch of them. But very interesting to have this so it can be erased, right? This idea of, again, wanting to maybe escape from the emotion as opposed to facing it and processing through it, especially when they're talking about, I can't explain my frozen heart or my rusted heart, which I think are both interesting to have, like rusted, because that's almost like fortifying yourself, right? And then having the rain is corroding that, like those barriers, right? I think it's a really interesting symbol or like metaphor. But I think it's really interesting to say, I can't explain why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling. I think anyone who's gone through something where you just feel like meh, right? Like you just feel and nothing is getting through to the way that it used to, right? Like you talk about music doesn't like make me happy the way that it used to. I think we've all had moments where all the things that usually make us happy just don't, and we're like, I don't know why. I'm just like a blue kind of mood. Like I'm just not able to throw myself into things the way that I want to. And because of that, it's like I don't know how to like process through it, right? Because it's an empty feeling as opposed to a strong emotional thing, right? Like it's not overwhelming, and therefore crying feels like it's not going to process it. Don't Stop the Rain could be a few things, and maybe it could be like rain, again, symbolic of crying. Maybe it's less about refusing to cry, but like wanting to cry. I know they said I don't want to cry, but at least that's an emotion, right? Like I was saying, this kind of feels more like an empty feeling than a overwhelm of emotions. And a lot of time when we're overwhelmed, our body kind of processes through crying. It's a way of filtering through things. And I want to be able to like filter through, and I don't want to cry. If there's an option to be happy, I'd rather be happy, but I'd rather feel something, cry it out, process through it, move on, than be stuck in this weird limbo of I don't even know why I'm feeling the way that I am, but I'm not feeling happy. Why is that? So maybe that's some of it, like wanting to let it out and then you could just forget about it, move on. Maybe? I don't know. I'm just guessing. Bop though. Like the choreo is probably so good to this. Or maybe the rain to cover up crying. Is that clap? I love that little like great way of me describing it, I'm sure. Right into the chorus. That's so fun. Okay, couple of things. There's the one line from Minghao. Yeah, like you want to make a call, but there's nowhere to call. I think it's really interesting. Again, wanting to find someone who understands, but I don't even understand why I'm feeling the way that I am. Like, what's going on with me? Who do I call? How do I explain the situation? Because I don't even know what's going on. And so you just end up like feeling alone. And even this where it says you can look in the mirror and talk to it, speaking to themselves in the mirror. This feels more like a pep talk. Like, how do I talk to myself about how I'm allowed to feel what I feel and dealing with some of the kind of darkness and stuff, but also saying I can't do that here because I don't even know what I'm feeling. Like it's an emptiness as opposed to a specific thing that I can pinpoint. And I'm like, this is what I'm feeling. These are the thoughts that I'm having. And I can take that and talk myself through it, or call someone and talk to them about it, or cry through it and process that way. But it's like a robot. It's like I feel empty, right? I think of this, I'm just speaking as someone who has dealt with depression for many years. It feels more like that, like the apathy that comes with something like depression, where there isn't like a reason for it. There isn't like a specific thing I can point to be like, that's why I'm depressed. It's like my body, my brain have decided that emotions are not an option. And now we're going to sit in the emptiness for a bit. And I'm like, that is not, I didn't sign up for that. It feels like that, like talking about sitting in an empty room with the curtains drawn, almost like metaphorical of blocking out everything because you just, nothing is bringing you that joy, that spark of inspiration. So you're retreating into yourself because you don't even know who to call or who to talk to or like how to explain what you're feeling. And like I was saying, maybe like the Don't Stop the Rain is also about wanting to cover up what's happening, whether that's like crying and then therefore wanting to have this rain as an excuse for what's happening, or covering up the fact that there's nothing going on emotionally, wanting to have that kind of filter between you and other people, like a show of emotion as opposed to actually feeling it. Interesting. I feel like there's so many things that I could pull apart in this. I like that, the day is night for that joy. I feel bad for dancing. Love all the layered vocals. Like the vocalizations, the ones inside the mixing. Ooh, the way that we just crashed right into the bridge. Love that. just before we get back into the chorus, I want to come back. But what I love is like synth that's like constant throughout like certain parts of it. Super fun as like almost like this heartbeat, or again, there's this kind of like energy to the song, which I feel like is really interesting considering how much of this seems to be about struggling with like the emptiness. Like even the one lyric was, I don't feel anything. Yeah, I don't feel anything. Vindicated in some of my interpretations. Is my heart broken? That would be easier, because if my heart's broken, then I'm sad. I'm dealing with loss, right? I can process through that because I understand what's happening. Instead, I don't feel anything. I'm empty. I don't know what's going on. And then having all of this kind of, there's like a certain like speed to the song, right? There's such a kind of propelling forward, even like I said, like crashing into the bridge is like rushing forward in a lot of ways, right? Like that pause. And then it just like rushes, continuing forward. And that feels almost like if I just don't stop, right? If I just keep going with my normal activities, pretend everything's fine, no one will know. Even just the song itself is like almost like a mask for all of the things that are going on lyrically. And I'm sure like performance wise, it looks a lot different visually as opposed to what's going on lyrically, like what they're talking about. And that feels like, hey, if I just keep performing, if I just keep going up on stage and dancing, if I just keep propelling myself forward, no one's gonna know what's going on. No one's gonna question the fact that I don't feel anything for what's going on. I can just fake it and eventually it'll get better. Like eventually it will. I want to be optimistic, but it's like being stuck in that place of not knowing how to get out of that kind of empty feeling, which is, I can relate, unfortunately, but it's really interesting, like sonically, even like having that falsetto, I think very much fits into kind of the retro sound, but also is a much like thinner, delicate, vulnerable sound. So it's a nice mix. Beautiful little crime part of that. So good, and like lyrically so interesting. A lot of the time when we talk about something like struggling with something going on internally, it tends to be, I'm feeling like a specific thing, right? It is about being sad or heartbroken or experiencing loss or being frustrated, or it's like a specific negative emotion, because those are a lot easier to explain, right? Like those are a lot easier for us to tap into for creating things, whether that's any kind of art, right? It's a lot harder to explain apathy, right? It's a lot harder to communicate what that is. And I think it's really interesting that they didn't even try to do that sonically. Like sonically, this is like a fun dance poppy, like retro track. And then lyrically, it's talking about kind of the confusion and struggle and the fact that you're like, I just want to sit alone and that's all I want to do, in contrast to the fact that they're going to have to be performing this. I think it's such an interesting juxtaposition. While they're talking about, hey, I'm going through all of these things, you're distracted by the instrumentation, you're distracted by the vocals, you're going to be distracted by the choreo and the staging and like the costumes, and like the whole performance bit of it, right? There's going to be so many other elements going on. It's, hey, I'm doing this and I'm performing and I'm being on stage, and like the lyrics are like, I want to be alone and figure out what's going on. I want to just sit in a room, curtains drawn, be by myself. And instead, I'm up on the stage performing. Like there's something equally like heartbreaking and very interesting from a performance standpoint of just like the symbolism of that and how much of that hits for people while listening to it. Very fascinating, especially again, like the metaphor of someone not seeing it that way, right? Being there and enjoying the performance as an audience member while they're also trying to communicate whether or not they actually feel that in the moment, right? I have to be up here performing regardless of what's going on internally for me. Fascinating. And a bop. It makes me so interested what the performance is like. Not gonna lie, I had to hype myself up a little bit for this one. Water, hip hop team. I'm so nervous. I've heard like the tiniest bit of this. Definitely not because my algorithms know that showing me Wanu edits are the way to get my attention. Definitely not. So I know the tiniest little bit of like them singing Water, and that's it. I'm just so nervous because hip hop team. I just want something that's fun and quirky. Like I say it every time. I'm like, I want Game Boy vibes. They're just like, no, we did that. We're done now. Moving on. So it's fine. We're fine. Water. Strong start. This part I've heard. Ooh. I have a little plinky synth. I'm just gonna need several moments to process because I was already like, Vernon, I don't need you to say any version of I'm thirsty in any language. I don't need Mingyu saying he's gonna make me sweat. I understand like the metaphor here because we had the like I'm walking on water while you flounder. I'm able to stay above, and obviously like walking on water, there's some Messiah imagery to that, but the concept is this is so much easier for me because I've already put in the work, right? I've already gotten the success. I've already done all the things I need to do to be able to outmaneuver you, right? It's not so much about like everything comes easy to me. It's like my hard work compared to yours. I'm going to walk on water and you're going to flounder. You're not going to make it, right? So I get it. I just think it's interesting, the choice of lyrical content. And I don't need Mingyu to do that little like shout cry thing. And I'm just remembering that last time I did a hip hop unit song, one, it was very mad. And it was a lot for me to take in. I'm still processing all of that. His verse is coming up and I'm like, please do not yell at me because the aggression is something I'm still trying to find my peace with. It's the lazy delivery when he says it too. Ooh, I love the idea of high places are my vacation. Getting able to reach those heights is, again, like I was saying, that's like a vacation. That's me taking a break. Like the high points for you are me taking it easy and laying back. Because again, there's a separation between what I'm putting in and what you're putting in. He got a little aggressive there. And I just look, I already miss him. And I'm already a hip hop team bias. And I'm just trying to process, okay? Even just Maestro already like rewired something in me because of his part where he has all the fight choreo. And then it proceeded to get worse with him like yelling into the microphone. And I'm like, we can't do this, okay? I'm processing. I'm fine. I like the surfing as well. Not you two. Ooh, that's interesting. No, Vernon, do not come in with that higher note. Thank you. I also find it so interesting that they put all the production and it's just like those shouted vocals because it's so open. It's so pulling back and everything. It's the shouting, having a bunch of like audience members like singing along. I think of these, like the energy of that would be so great to prove your point. I'm so beyond competing with you, like this person who might try to drag me down, that I can stand here on a stage with nothing going on and a crowd of people is going to be singing something back at me, right? Having a bunch of voices singing it, but also there's nothing to hide behind in that, right? There isn't any production, there isn't any crazy like vocal melodies, right? There's nothing there except their voices like shouting, and I don't know what's going on like performance wise, but there's nothing sonically for them to hide behind and say, oh, you're doing like this gimmick or that gimmick, or you're using this to sound better than you do, right? It's like they're just there like shouting those vocals and then having people like join in. There's just something about the laid back delivery of the I stand in oceans, right? And even like the symbolism of water is its own kind of element, right? There's like a strength to it. Like they talk about being pulled down. There's currents, there's waves, there's bottomless feeling to it, right? Of talking about not afraid of falling. There's like a strange thing about sinking and falling, right? Like those two things tangling up together. And I think it's really interesting to say stand above all of that kind of struggle now, because I've done so many things and I've progressed so much that that's not something that I'm struggling with anymore, right? Like I can stand amongst that chaos and nothing is going to knock me down.
I'll be sweet, 더 차갑게 긴 밤의 실종부터 또 지난 뒤 Here comes the sun, let it beam on my skin, feel so weak Drop, drop 떨어져, 폭포 난 또 젖어버렸어 내 이름, 걸통 싹 다 마셔버렸어 사랑은 불어줘 참견은 다 풀어줘 지붕을 줘 구성을 길러줘
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for Scoops to come in with that delivery, especially in comparison to Vernon, who usually has quite like a deeper range, right? He has a bit of a deeper tone when he's rapping, especially. But there, he's coming in with a higher part of his range, right? Those thinner notes. I think that's so interesting in the contrast to then having Scoops with that lower range where he's delivering his lyrics. It's doing something a little bit outside of the norm, and I think that it's, again, playing around with the sound, right? Like, it's, again, leaning into that easy delivery of, this isn't something I need to work hard at anymore because we're not competing in the same ring anymore. It's not a competition between us because we're not in the same place. And I love this like ice cream because it's like sweet and cold, right? It's like a treat, but also can cause like brain freeze, right? If like you can't handle it or whatever. So I think that's really fun. And like the more time passes, like I'm not in that like long night anymore. Like I'm not in that place of struggle and darkness and wondering when I'm going to get to that kind of new start or that like the light on the other side. And it's like I'm already there. The sun's beaming on my face, melting away the kind of ice, right? The coldness. Like I don't need to be that person anymore where I need to fortify myself against other things because I'm, again, on a different playing field, right? We're not competing in the same spaces anymore. And then really interesting with Escoop's part of pouring something out of my name. Don't even want to deconstruct those lyrics at all. Not gonna do it. But yeah, I drank all of the trash out of my name. It's like a really interesting image of like all the negativity that was thrown at me, especially like him as not just as a performer, but also as the leader of 17. He takes the brunt of a lot of the negativity, and it's his job in a lot of ways to manage a lot of that because he's supposed to be an in-between point, right, between like the group and other things, both in terms of being the representative of the group to the public, but also he's supposed to be in between like companies and industry things and his group, right? That's part of his representation of the group as a whole. It's not just about how do we manage the group in general, but it's like, how do I listen to what the group needs and communicate that? And how do I take what everyone else is weighing in on and communicate that with the group, right? He's that in-between connection point. So he tends to have to deal with a lot of the negativity that gets thrown around from all different sides, right? Whether that's like public negativity, like people who are being judgmental about like 17 as a group, but then also like any of the negativity they had to deal with on like an industry level, because he's the person who's being in communication of that. So I think that it's really interesting to say I took all of that kind of negativity, all these things that are being thrown at me, and like I used it as sustenance for such a long time, and now that has gone away now, right? Like I was saying with Vernon's lines of I'm not struggling through the night anymore, I'm in the sun, it's melting away my need to have this barrier up between me and what's going on, right? I don't need to fortify myself in the same way. It feels the same symbolism there of him being like, I don't need to navigate that negativity in the way that I used to because I'm so beyond it now, right? I'm so beyond the point of needing to negotiate with general public like sentiment or like a lot of industry things, right? Like they did not come from a company that had like a huge name when they started out, right? Like the reason that they've done a bunch of stuff for themselves when it comes to lyrics and production and choreography and making their own videos and stuff, right? Is because they didn't have the backing from the industry that they needed to promote their group and propel them forward, right? They couldn't hire people to write music for them. So they were like, all right, we'll do it. And because of that, you have to play the game a little bit, right? When you're starting off in the industry. And they're like, we don't have to do that anymore, right? We're so successful now. I don't have to sit here and take trash being thrown at me in order to make it somewhere in the industry. I'm already there. So I can clear all that out. And now my name is like something that opened doors for me instead of shutting them, right? Yeah, keep your interference to a minimum is fun. That's wild, just pull out all the production. Ooh, I like the speed up there at the end. And I was also thinking with water, it's like water can run off of you, right? Like it's something that could just fall off of your skin, right? Or I don't know how well this translates to Korean, but at least in English, we have the phrase like water under the bridge that means that you're kind of beyond something, right? Like you're passing over it as opposed to like walking through that like negativity or some kind of issue that you had with someone, right? You're walking over the water as opposed to wading through it and dealing with the risks therein. So I think that's also really interesting. Obviously we have Vernon on this, so there could be some of that influence of English in the symbolism of the song. I was just thinking also in terms of like sayings, there's also the saying in Korean, right, that's about being stuck in a well, which is like your world is like very small and it seems like you know everything that's going on, but there's a whole world outside of that well. Wells are also like water, so it's like I stand in oceans and you're like stuck in your well, this smaller frame of mind of thinking, and I'm like so far out of what you could even comprehend of like field that I'm in at this point. So I think that's really interesting too, like lots of different kind of symbolism of what that means. Also, we have a very laid back delivery earlier on, right? We have Mingyu starting off very laid back, Wonu got like a little bit more aggression into it. Vernon seemed to be playing around a little bit with his verse in terms of like how he was doing his vocals. And then Scoops going into some of more of that aggression, more like pointed delivery in the way that he was going about his lines, right? So it's like all the different dynamics of who they are as a group, but also starting off with kind of the, hey, I'm not even worried, laid back. We don't compete in the same ring. A little bit of aggression of, I might be moving on, but I'm not forgetting, right? I'm not going to let you get under my skin, but I know what kind of person you are, right? Being able to come from the bottom to the top is that you understand how people treat people at the bottom, right? So even though you're at the top now, you're like, I remember what it was like when I couldn't get by with just like my name and my talent, right? And then going to like Vernon, who's, I'm just gonna play around because this is easy for me and you can't keep up anyway. And then having Scoops coming with that pointed delivery feels very much like putting an end to things, of being like, know your place, keep your interference to a minimum, understand how you fit into this dynamic now, because it's not what you seem to think it is, right? Understand the difference between the two of us. Loved it. I got pulled into that one a lot more than I thought I would. But like the production was wild too. So like bassy and like dark tonally. And then pulling out all of the production is like wild, especially like for something that is just like repeating water as opposed to having something complex going on vocally or lyrically, but just like opening up that space and letting it breathe and just sitting in that. And it's like an unconventional thing because like, of course they can, right? They've had enough success that they're like, we could just play around and do what we want. Fascinating. Really enjoyed that, like from a lot of different angles as an album, not just some of the like sentimentality, but then like also getting into the units. I think the units are always super fun to see what they're going to showcase, the very like different sonic kind of things that they end up doing. But I also feel like this has a bit of an experimental feeling to it, which going to the album title of Spill the Feels feels like it's leaning into that, of them kind of doing things that are a little bit less conventional. And obviously they've played around with that. They have so much music that it's difficult for them to not like veer into some more like interesting nuanced ways of angles to stuff. But I think that it's interesting that they're leaning into some of those things that aren't exactly, they don't sell as well. Feels that way, especially for like B-sides, you can get away with that a lot more. But I think it's very interesting, even though the Candy is like a gorgeous song, it's not exactly like a pop hit, right? Like it's a little bit bit difficult to sell like a really sentimental, sad ballad. Even Rain, fun sonically, but there's stuff going on lyrically that make it a little bit more difficult to wrap your head around. And the Water's doing like weird things with the production and post on like the vocals and everything. Even like 1 to 13 is like something that feels more like an inside thing, right? Like you have to already be a fan of 17 to understand all the things that are going on with that song. So it feels a little bit like this is something where it feels more like an inside between them and Carrot as opposed to like more conventionally accessible kind of music, which I think is really interesting, especially again at this point of them having the kind of success that they do and being able to have space for that, especially for a shorter album like this where they're doing like unit songs and things that they can get away with experimenting a lot more and playing around with what they're doing. And again, they've been doing this for long enough that I feel if you don't start to experiment with things, it gets a little bit stagnant, right? Like it gets a bit boring from a creative process side if you're not continuing to try new things and figure out what works for you, especially like going into the next album where they have all the solos, right? So they're still leaning into different facets of what they want to be doing as musicians, which is really fascinating. But I hope you enjoyed listening to that along with me. You can click this playlist to go to my previous reactions, or you can subscribe to me next time I post a 17 reaction. I will see you in the next video. Bye.